strategic place of Ogun State in the scheme of things in the nation.
Yeah. The truth is that our geographical placement in Nigeria is such that we are so contiguous with Lagos that whatever affects Lagos ultimately affects us. And one of the facts there also is that from the residency tax facts and data available, more than 500,000 people work in Lagos who reside in Ogun State. And they go out daily to eke out a living, return to Ogun State. Whatever they must have mingled with there, doesn't matter, they bring it back to Ogun State. Those are just the documented ones. You also have the fact that people who do business in our various ports don't have a choice than to pass through Ogun State. And some of them have stopovers. You have trailer park in Ogiri. You have some at the Ibafo axis and the Kara market area. These are geographical realities that exposes us to this COVID-19. And Lagos is the epicenter in Nigeria. So we just have to sit up and ensure that we don't unnecessarily expose the populace to the infection that is ravaging the whole world. Those are the reasons why you see that at any point in time that any update comes from Lagos, we also escalate our own measures, just so that it is on ground and it is on record that we're doing something, we're not just sitting back, leaving things to chance.
Well, yeah.
Talking about the state's proximity to Lagos, you have described Lagos as the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. No less than 60 confirmed cases in Lagos. And then one would expect that with Ogun State's closeness to Lagos, Ogun State should actually be either number 2 or number 3 in terms of the number of confirmed cases in the country. But that is not the case. What is the magic behind this? Or is it luck that is really smiling on our
The truth of the matter is, one of the things we have done in terms of advocacy and awareness is for people to stay back at home and ensure that they observe this period of incubation, especially if you have been exposed to someone who just came back from overseas trip or someone that is susceptible to the symptoms. The advocacy has been high. It is only those who have gone down with the symptoms that are tested, and of all the suspected people that have been exposed that we have tested, we've only recorded about 3 cases, and of the 3, 2 have become well and they've been discharged from the hospital. It then doesn't mean that all is truly well if we keep exposing others. Yes, we have the luck now that it is what it is at this time, but we shouldn't allow it to be what it is planning to be by leaving things just to chance.
Compliance is another issue. Yeah, we're glad that the governor met with security chiefs in the state yesterday to further ensure that people comply with this. But we also know that in some cases, people could be very recalcitrant. How strong is government going to take this?
The truth of the matter is that if you're going to change the way of life of the people from what it has been to what the reality of the moment suggests, it's going to be a difficult paradigm to shift. And that is why you have some level of non-compliance. We don't shy away from engaging those who have not been compliant enough as to ensure that we don't run into the kind of crisis that the other Western nations have run into now. And until some people come to the knowledge of the truth about the reality of COVID-19, they may not believe, because they go with the notion that seeing is believing. And when someone has not actually been said to be infected, that is close to death, they still see it as, no, it can happen. There are those who still believe that there's no COVID-19 in Nigeria. And my prayer is that it doesn't infect somebody that is very dear to them before they come to the reality that it is here and it's here for real.
In terms of advocacy, because we believe so much that education needs to also be brought in now in the next 2 weeks, that people will be forced to sit back at home and they understand truly that this is a reality. What is government going to do in the next 2 weeks to also intensify advocacy and education?
If you check the momentum that we have built in the last 1 month since the index case happened somewhere in Ewekuru, you will see that as reality unfolds, we escalate our measures. As reality unfolds, we escalate our measures. Now that it is a total lockdown, we preempted it, that it was going to happen, but we've been doing what looks like a guided lockdown. When 80% of the civil servants were told to sit at home, that shows that this government knows exactly what it is doing, because we don't want to unnecessarily take more attention to whatever gives us economic gains in the name of wanting to make money, and at the end of the day, we're exposed to people. It is those that are alive that will spend the money. So the next 2 weeks that has now become a total lockdown, even the instruction we gave earlier on Saturday concerning restriction of movement from outside of the state still did not suggest a lockdown. There could still be movement within Ogun State. But now by presidential fiat, there is no movement. And that takes it one level above what the state will be involved, especially in the enforcement. It then means that the military will be all over the space, the police will be there, other security agencies, the immigration will step up their activities at the border and what have you. That now means that federal government also has realized that we need to get to that level where the period of incubation for the whole state will now come up to the level that whoever is symptomatic will immediately be taken for test, because 14 days is the incubation period for COVID-19. And if the whole state is going to go down for 14 days under lock and keys, whoever is symptomatic within that period will easily be noticed, and whatever health measures based on our preparedness will now be deployed to bring that person out, tested. If the person goes down positive, of course they are isolated. If negative, whatever symptoms that is manifesting will be treated as it were. So those are the realities of this time.
Now, the federal government announced the lockdown just last night, and then quite a number of persons have really welcomed it, because it's going to go a long way to help us, in containing this virus. But again, there is the hue and cry that it will have huge amount of negative economic impact, particularly on the average residents in Ogun State. Some people actually make their daily bread on a daily basis. Does the government have something in place as yet to help people cushion, the negative effect of, what this lockdown can cause?
Now, when two things are important, the prioritization of which one comes first will be based on the urgency of whichever. Economy is important, life is important, but which one is more urgent? Life comes first. It is those who are alive that will run the economy or reap the benefit that the economy brings. And that is why the stay-at-home order is a stay-at-home to live. But of course, we recognize that food is key. People must feed, which is why you saw that after the president's address, there is a more than 24 hours timeline for people to stock up. But we also recognize that there are those who may not be able to fend for themselves in the circumstance. The governor is going to address a press conference today, and some relief measures will be communicated to the entire populace. However, it is going to be for those that truly, truly are in need, because there are those who can still support themselves in the circumstance. If you throw it open, the mentality of the average Nigerian is, even if he has, he still wants that which is free, because he thinks, well, that's the benefit that I should get. But there are those who need it more. Wow. So we will deploy our own initiative to really recognize that these are the people that are in need. And at every level of our government, at the ward level, the local government level, the senatorial level, and of course the state organogram, will help us to determine the mechanism for distributing these relief materials. Yes, we have a plan. The governor will put flesh to this skeleton that I just built here.
Now, probably we should also look at something that has actually generated some controversy in the state in recent days, and that is the issue of some members of the Ogun State House of Assembly. It was reported that some of them came into the country they traveled for a seminar, and then they came back from that seminar, and then they did not observe the compulsory self-isolation that people who are supposed to come from outside the country should observe before they mix with the crowd. Now, you are in government. What is the situation of things?
Realistically speaking, whenever anybody travels to an infected area, one of the responsible things to do is to self-isolate, especially through the 14 days period of incubation, to see if you go down with any symptoms or what have you. I want to believe that the Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly is fully in charge of the House, and he will have done the needful. I'm aware the House has been on off-plenary duty for more than a week, so to say. Maybe that is their own idea of the self-isolation that everybody clamors for. But when it has to do with an arm of government, it is just proper that you direct that question to the head of that arm. But like I said, the responsible thing to do is to self-isolate in the circumstance. Whether it has been done or not, how it was done, I can't go into details. The Speaker is in the best position to talk to you on that.
Now, what do you think this will cost Ogun State government, the whole, this whole thing? You said the governor is addressing the press conference later in the day. Some measures will be announced to cushion the effect of all of this. Is government also envisioning the amount it's going to cost it? You know, security has to be built up and all of that.
Definitely, it's going to cost quite a lot. We can't begin to put figures to it, and that's why we are crying out to Ogun State stakeholders that are far well off, whether as corporate citizens or individuals, to look in our direction. And some have heeded that clarion call. A few days ago, our father, the father of Nigeria, and one of the fathers of the Black continent, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, donated his place at the presidential hilltop to be used as an isolation center. Mr. Fola Adeola also did the same. A number of people have been coming up. We are opening up platforms for people to support us in terms of contribution, whether in cash or in kind, just to cushion the effect. And some of the things that have come in, plus what the government is also bringing up, is what will address especially those vulnerable people when it comes to food support. And that's the address that the governor is going to be giving later today.
We'd like you to actually to also explain the nature of the ban, you know, in the simplest form to an average Ogun State resident. Now, people are going to be at home, you know, from tonight, 11 p.m. They will need to also buy a few things and all of that. Can they come out? You know, walk down to the ATM to get some cash? Can they walk to some makeshift markets? Because that's a possibility. Or are they going to just be perpetually indoors?
Now, how it has been done in the Western world is that you be on the street only if you have reasons to be on the street. Because stay indoor is simply stay indoor. Now, if there are things that will make you go out, you still have the next 11, 12 hours to sort yourself out. It is better to stay indoor. But there are exceptions anyway. One of the exceptions is for distributors of petroleum products, because Lagos is still the most effective supply point. And whoever takes his loading from Lagos will still have to pass through Ogun State. They're exempted. People who carry medical supplies needing to transport them to state where they are needed, accepted. You also have security officials who are on duty. They're also exempted from this. And as well, you have food supply and manufacturing companies needing to move food from either from Lagos to other parts of Nigeria or from that part of Nigeria to the port and wherever. There are also exceptions that goes with that. However, the enforcement officers on the road in every corner of our neighborhood will put a lot more teeth to this instruction. But like I said, it is advisable, this window that you have before 11 p.m., whatever will possibly take you out, get it now before that time comes so that you don't have to spend too much time explaining to law enforcers why you have to be on the street when indeed you should be indoors.
Okay, let's also look at the issue of compliance, because you said the exemptions you've mentioned to some people, some unscrupulous people too, are also likely to take advantage of that. You don't think so?
No doubt about that. That's why there was a security meeting last night between the governor and the heads of all security agencies to reassess the situation and see how deployment of security will be, especially in the circumstance, so that nobody takes advantage of this restricted movement to perpetrate any act of crime. I think those who are in charge of our security know exactly what to do about this.
What lessons have this actually brought to Ogun State? Here is a state that has been existing since 1976. But now suddenly this is something that has come as a big test for us, for our health system, infrastructure and all of that. Yes, I mean, if there are lapses, no, I don't think anybody will want to blame this current government. There have been lapses in the past, you know, and all of that. But again, because it has come now, it is something that is of a big test to the current government. Are there lessons that this government has actually learned from this?
Major lessons. One of it is that we need to rejig our medical healthcare architecture in such a way that it does more of preventive healthcare than corrective healthcare. And that means that the primary healthcare system, which almost went dead in the last administration, that this administration is trying to revive, should be further strengthened to take the messages of preventive health to the grassroots. Because you find out that when people don't have the information they need, the likelihood of ignorantly breaking the law and sincerely believing they're doing themselves good will be perpetrated more at that level. But when the messages are there for people to tap into and use, you'll be shocked that even the man, the woman in the village will educate those in the city center that these and these and these are the steps to take to ensure that you don't necessarily expose yourself. I saw a comedy skit on my WhatsApp app a few days ago. It was about a little girl who an adult was asking to shake hands with. And the girl said, my mom said I shouldn't shake hands with people. And the man was trying to insist. And the girl shouted, Mommy, coronavirus have come. That is the kind of messaging that we expect that should go through our primary healthcare system to the entire grassroots locations in the state. And it is a rejig of our healthcare architecture that will ensure that that is done in the circumstance.
Now, when you were talking earlier on, you said one of the reasons why the 14 days curfew has been imposed is because of the period of incubation, so that anybody that comes down with some symptoms of this virus will be able to take them and then have them cared and tended for. Now, peradventure, though we don't pray, peradventure we now have cases, confirmed cases during this period. Do you think, or not that do you think, how prepared is our health institutions? Do we have the capacity in terms of trained personnel and then facilities to manage and tender and care for patients of this virus?
One of the first information that people need is that being symptomatic does not presuppose that you are going to be positive. because all of the symptoms of COVID-19 are one and the same with our normal typhoid and malaria fever. So for someone to come down with symptoms of those feverish feelings doesn't presuppose that the person is going to be positive. The only measure of checking how positive or negative someone is through the test. So being symptomatic now just means that the person needs to be tested. And it is when they are tested that we will now begin to say, okay, this is a confirmed case. And the level of the test, I think, is about 3 stages. The first test, the confirmation test, and the validation test. Just so to be sure that one is not tested in the morning and is positive, and in the afternoon, another test says the person is negative. And you already killed the person with some bit of bad news that that person couldn't possibly cope with. So that has to do with ensuring that people don't just conclude that symptoms symbolizes being positive. Now, how ready are we? In the circumstance, Ogun State is preparing for the worst, even though we are expecting the best. And that is because of the analogy I started with. Our contiguity to Lagos is such that has exposed us to the likelihood of having cases in an exponential dimension. And when people don't observe the necessary social distancing, they're susceptible to contacting the virus. But how ready are we? We have about 3 state-prepared isolation centers, and all the ones that have been gifted us, we're also putting up structures in place to make them habitable for the kind of use that we're going to put them into. In Iberekodo Isolation Center, 50 beds are already in place. Another 50 will be there much later today. In the Kenya Isolation Center, we have 200 in place already. And of course, we have one at OUTH, which originally was being prepared for the Lassa fever outbreak before COVID-19 came. So it's just going to be much more available for us to use. The Baba Basanjo's place, the Fola Adeola's place, we're also trying to equip them in the circumstance. All of this is to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Our prayer is that we may never have to need it, but it is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Now, we also understand that there is a 200-bed hospital right here in Ogun State.
250.
250, built by the previous administration. Are we not going to also see that being used during this emergency?
As a journalist, I believe you have understanding of what a typical hospital environment should look like. And I also want to believe that you should understand that bringing construction side by side with patient management cannot suffice. You're even exposing the patient to much more troubles than you're trying to solve in the circumstance. That hospital is not completed. And one of the engagements we had on social media yesterday was to tell the whole world that that place is barely 50% completed because a lot of the floors are not even plastered. And why will someone that has not finished the interior of a building go to plaster the exterior and paint it? What message are you sending to the populace? Then one wing of a floor is now being equipped with ICU beds, and the picture of that wing is being sent to the outside world that that place can be used. That's deceptive. If you put patient in that place, and construction will still have to go on. By the way, the contractor said he needs 150 days of night and day job to complete that place. 150 days, that's 5 months. If that is what he needs, he's simply saying that the place is not ready. Why do you want to go and expose patients to live side by side with construction activities when earth-moving machines are there and a lot of things are going on? The noise alone can send some of the patients to their early grave. We can't take that risk. The hospital is not ready. But this government will not abandon that project because we know that it is going to impact our people And what has been spent on it so far is Ogun State money. And that money cannot go down the drain. One of the challenges we have in moving that job forward is that the contractor is demanding for a 50% variation, which we've not cited the document that gave approval for that variation, when actually the initial contract sum has been paid to him 100%. So we can't have all of those administrative bottlenecks and assume that all is well. We will finish that project, no doubt about that. But all of the gray areas must be sorted out so that at the end of the day, it is in the interest of Ogun State that the place will be put into proper use.
So the structure is completely out of play.
It is not going to be what should be considered in the COVID-19 management. That's why we're reaching out to other locations that can immediately, in the circumstance, be used as more like an improvised location that will still provide the serene hospital environment, silence, that will help the patient to quickly recover from whatever it is that they have gone through.
Another talk, really, as far as fighting COVID-19 in town is the, talk of ventilators, which it has been said that is one of the major equipment needed to combat or to help patients of this virus, to help them to breathe well and then pass through whatsoever crisis or episode they may be facing at that particular point in time. Now, how many of these ventilators do we have in Ogun State? Do you have the statistics, the numbers?
Now, let's do a bit of education so that we put things in proper perspective. The need for respirators or ventilators, as it is interchangeably used, is at the level of severity. COVID-19 has quite a lot of levels. There's a level of being symptomatic. There's a level where even as you are symptomatic or not symptomatic, you're positive, but then you're still relatively able to support yourself. When it gets to the critical level and the severe level, that is when the difficulty in breathing manifests. And in supporting those patients who probably have attained that severe level, that is when the need for ventilators come in. Now, ICU beds, modern ICU beds, intensive care unit beds, are usually equipped with ventilators. And when a patient is on such bed, the breathing is usually supported by that. We have about 200 of that at this time. We're planning for more. We don't have need for any at this time, but we envisage that we may have need for them in the foreseeable future. Those ones that are at the 250-bed hospital, I counted them, 10 installed, 8 just like in the store there. You can compare that to what we already have. And the installation of those ones was meant to make a show out of the inspection that President Muhammadu Buhari did on the 25th of May in 2019, just so that after cutting the tape of the plaque that showed that the place was inspected and not commissioned, there was somewhere to visit on the first floor, and they showed the bed. Oh, this is how this place will look when it is completed. But the place is not completed. So we have some beds. We are planning to get more. We have no need for any of those beds at this time, but there may be need for them in the foreseeable future, and we're not resting on our oars.
Ogun State is a civil service state. Yes, also a very vastly industrialized state. How do you think this will affect business of government?
It is not just Ogun State. This is a global phenomenon. It is when people are alive that they can return to their business. Our brother Kwamwan, when we were still very small and he was a young man, said something in one of his songs. What is going to expose us to untimely death is out there. Let us first kill it before it kills us. Then we can return to the economy and we'll start all over again. Everybody is going to be affected. This is a global phenomenon. Nobody is immune to it at this time. But then we do the needful first. We shouldn't be taking what seems to be important to us as priority over life. Life is more important, and people should recognize that. A business may go down in the limbo momentarily, but it has the potential of bouncing back when everything normalizes. So those are secondary thoughts in the circumstance that we're in.
Okay, well, at this point, we would like to also take a few calls from you viewers that are watching us. We have in the studio Pastor Remy Azan is a special advisor to the Ogun State Governor on media and communications. He's here. He's been talking about Ogun State's government's fight against coronavirus and the need for residents of the state to comply and to support government. At this point in time, it's very, very important that we do this because of the dangers that are involved in battling with this virus. We'll have him here in the next 10 minutes. If you have enough time, we'll take your calls. Maybe you want to get some form of clarifications from him. Pastor Zan, we'd like you to also again run through the measures, break them down for people, because it's very possible that some people are just joining this program. They need to know in clear terms what they need to do and what they don't need to do in the next 2 weeks.
All of the measures that we rolled out last week, maintain social distance, don't carry more than so number of passengers in vehicles, 80%, have been overtaken by events. What the president said last night has taken everything to the cleaners. Stay indoor, that's the new rule. And it begins from 11 p.m. tonight. Whatever you need to get to keep you indoor, as healthy, as comfortable as you should be, get it between now and 11 p.m. Because once this goes down, it is no longer in the hands of even any official of government. It is in the hands of the security agencies. And when they see you as someone that is likely putting other people's life at risk. And they will treat you as such.
Now, one of the basic measures to reduce the spread of coronavirus, not to contract it, is constant washing of hands. And then in most areas in Ogun State, we have reports that they have had shortage of water supply, or they've not even had water supply. And then the government is saying you should wash your hands using running water. I know shortage of water supply is not peculiar to this administration. It has always been there. But we know as government you can do something to really solve the problem in the interim. Do you have plans really to ensure that we have water running in our taps?
It has gone beyond plans. We're already implementing the plans that we have. As a matter of fact, Abeokuta, that is the most challenged, got into this trouble because the roads that were constructed in the last administration did not factor in the fact that a number of pipes that carry this water to homes have been destroyed. So they just shut down the Arakonga source of supply. Now, when we came in and revisited the Arakonga project and turned on the waters, we realized that there were leakages in a lot of places. And if we don't immediately cut down on the what we open, we might even destroy the roads that have been constructed, because once water comes from under, it makes the road to fail. All of the stone bays and what have you will just come down, and you create potholes, roads that are not even up to 2-3 years. So what have we done? One of the things that we have done in the...
I think we have...
Okay, Pastor, let's just take this call. Biodun from... Hello, good morning, Biodun.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I can see how you are, on your program now. But the only thing that I want the government to do for us, although the government has been trying, the issue of
Okay. Hello, Biodun.
Hello.
Hello. I'd like you to repeat what you just said, Biodun.
I said I like your program this morning. The program that you are doing now, I'm hearing it, and I like it very well.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Biodun.
The only assistance that I want the government to do, or either the governor or whoever, this issue of life, this issue of virus or no virus, they should try to assist us.
Oh, okay, Biodun. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think people of the state will have to again wait a little bit. The governor is addressing the press conference later today, and I think tonight in our news you get to know more about other measures the state government is putting in place to cushion the effect of these two bans.
Let me quickly bring her up to speed on the question I was trying to answer.
Yeah.
Pipes leading to points where there are leakages have been blocked and locked up completely. And those that have no leakages, they have water running. However, we also ran into the problem of the power supply at Arakanga, which became quite much of a challenge. The present source is not supporting the plant, and the government has gone one step further to revisit the source of power supply. And that's why the Special Advisor Energy is working round the clock to ensure that what is there now is replaced by a better generator that will power that place and water will flow. And that is the same plan for all the various water corporation supply points in Ogun State. And the Special Advisor on Water a few weeks ago presented his roadmap to the State Executive Council, and it was a wonderful presentation which gives all of us the hope that within the next 12 months there will be a change that is positive in the entire water supply system in Ogun State.
Adebisi from Ijebu, this should be our last call. Adebisi, good morning. Good morning, Adebisi. Okay, we lost that. We'd like to thank you so much, Pastor Remi Azan, for your time on this program. And we also know that today, the later part of today will be, in fact, the entire day will be very busy for the state government trying to, correct dot the I's and cross the T's in terms of putting things in the right perspectives for our people in the next 2 weeks. We thank you so much for coming, for all the hard work you've been doing in government. Okay, we'll be hosting Pastor Remi Azan, Special Advisor to the Ogun State Governor on Media and Communications. He's been here talking about the plans of Ogun State government to, and Nigeria to totally decimate coronavirus. We'd like to tell you that we'll update you. Possibly we'll bring him back, as need arises to tell us more about what government is doing. Thank you so much once more.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll take this break. When we return, we'll continue with the program, Newdawn on the People's Study.